Welcome to our interview series on brave feminine leadership. Today I'm joined by Sangeeta and I can't wait to introduce her to you. Lovely to have you here with me.
Thank you, Melissa. How are you?
I'm really well, thank you. Let me step through a little bit of background to help people understand a little bit more about you. So, excuse me while I just step through this. So, Sangeeta is the Chairman of FairVine Super, CEO and founder of Applegrove Capital. She also serves as a board member of Women in Banking and Finance, Treasurer of Australia-India Business Council for New South Wales, and advisory board member of JC Happiness Charity Foundation in partnership with the Fred Hollows Foundation. Having worked in the banking and finance sector for close to 25 years, Sangeeta's experience spans the globe, including London, Hong Kong, Mumbai, Singapore and Sydney, at some of the most prominent and globally recognised firms such as Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, Lehman Brothers, Nomura, KPMG and the Commonwealth Bank of Australia. She is no stranger to breaking through the glass ceiling. Thus far, she's the only female who's been a CEO of a stockbroking firm in Australia. She's a highly sought-after speaker, media commentator and thought leader across the banking and finance sector, including fintech, sustainable investing and gender equality. Sangeeta won the Innovator of the Year award at Money Management and Super Review Women in Financial Services Award 2019. She has a gorgeous 12-year-old daughter who she learns from every day and is crazy about Formula One.
Thank you, Melissa. That sounds better than I am.
Sangeeta, for people in our audience who haven't had the opportunity to come across you before, would you share a little more about yourself and where your passion comes from?
Sure. When I look back, perhaps I have one word to describe my life, serendipity, if I could say that. And once again, when I look back, I don't think I have consciously made specific decisions in terms of how I want to lead my life or planned or had a 3-year plan or a 5-year plan. I think if I were to summarize, there are a number of little moments that have steered me in a particular direction, good and bad at different stages in life, both personally and professionally. Now, a bit more about me. I grew up in a little town and without much ambition or purpose. And that's the reality. Things changed dramatically for me when I was in high school, and I just did well in everything I chose to do, which is perhaps what gave me the push to get out of my hometown and make a life for myself. And I think each and every experience that I have been through has shaped me up further. And I've learned more from that has taken me to where I am today. If I look at certain parts of, in terms of what has really driven me or what has got me to where I am today, there's a number of factors. One, I think I've always liked to do more than what I was given everywhere, be it in personal life or professional life. Example, everywhere I've worked, I've always wanted to do a bit more than my role, which meant that I put up my hand for anything new or any new project or anything that came up. The other thing is I've always wanted to take up a new challenge, always wanted to do more. So every time I saw a new challenge, I would put up my hand and therefore jump and do something else. The other factor is balance. I am a big believer in balance in life. And that stems from the fact that I want everything. I want it all. So when people talk about women can't have it all, I disagree with that. I do want to have it all, and I make sure that I get it all, which means I got to focus on balance. Balance meaning I compartmentalize my life to ensure that I'm able to live a fuller life. And what that means to me is growth through experience, growth through knowledge. And to each person, success is defined differently. For me, it's really about experiencing life. Perhaps it's a bit too generic and philosophical, Melissa. Happy to just delve into anything in detail.
Okay. There's so many questions that come out of that for me straight away. But what I'm hearing, or the first question that occurs to me, did it ever occur to you along the way in your journey? Because you talk about, people say you can't have it all, and you're like, well, I want it all, so I'll make sure that I can do that. Were there ever points in your journey where you thought, maybe I can't, or were there ever any sort of barriers that came up along the way that you had to stop and think, is it possible?
Of course. And the classic example is when I had my daughter. And that's something we as women always think about in terms of what is the right balance to achieve in personal and professional life. And I have been through that state of mind a number of times in terms of juggling and what do I want more of? What do I want less of? And when I say I want it all, what I mean to say is you almost allocate a weighted average method where you say, if I can compartmentalize my life, if I can have it all, how much do I focus on each item that I want to focus on? Be it your career, be it your personal life, be it on yourself, your passion. Example, I have a master's degree in classical violin and I play that on the side. I don't do much of that now, but I did a lot of that before. So, and that has now driven me to do something else, and I've tried to pick up other instruments. So it's really about balancing and making sure that you strike the right balance. Talking about home and work, example, I pick up and drop my daughter off at school 4 days a week. And there's 1 day a week I don't. And that's the day for me to go out and do what I want to do, be it with clients, be it at work, whatever that might be. 3 years ago, it was different. 3 years ago, I spent 3 days working late and 2 days with my daughter. So I think at different stage in your life, you pick and choose what you need to focus more on and what you can have less of. And it's just that choice.
So how did you always know what you wanted to do from a career path perspective? So, was investment banking in your future?
No, not at all. If anything, I spent a lot of time trying to know what I really wanted to do. So, example, my first job was at KPMG. I spent 4 years there. By the end of it, I had tried auditing, tax advisory, corporate finance, and none of them clicked for me. And I wasn't sure if that's because I did them for a certain number of months or years and that was enough, or I genuinely didn't enjoy it. So I went on a mission to find what I really wanted to do. I quit my job and I spent time interviewing with pretty much every sector. I interviewed in advertising companies, marketing, events management, even jewelry designing.
Right.
In the end, I went back into investment banking at Goldman Sachs. And maybe it was a little bit of familiarity in terms of what comes to me naturally, what I'm good at, and plus being acknowledged or made to feel relevant. So there are a variety of factors, but no, I've never knew what I wanted to do. And like I said earlier, there are a lot of little moments that have shaped my career, specifically speaking. Example, I don't think there are many examples. I have gone from KPMG in professional services doing auditing, tax, corporate finance, to investment banking at Goldman Sachs, to fixed income at Morgan Stanley and Lehman Brothers, to foreign exchange at Commonwealth Bank of Australia, and now a superannuation fund and investment advisory. They're quite different. They are so different to many people that, and the only reason I chose those moves is because something in those roles or challenged me and made me feel that not only can I contribute something and enjoy, but I'll also learn from that.
Sangeeta, it's interesting that, the research would indicate that a lot of females wait to be tapped on the shoulder. They wait for some form of external validation before they put their hand up for the next opportunity, the bigger role. And quite a few of the people I've interviewed in the series have shared their own personal stories about that, where their reflection was, I've been working here for a long time, people know me well. If they wanted me to do the job, they would come and ask me to do it. Have you had that experience yourself, or, how does that sort of resonate with you, that conversation?
Well said. Early on in my career, absolutely yes. And even today, I doubt myself if I'm good enough for a certain role. Almost every day, I have certain doubts about what I can and can't do. Early on in my life, absolutely, I used to wait to be asked to do something and to be given an opportunity. However, that changed over a period of time, especially because I ended up moving geographies so many times. And that's when I started putting up my hand to want to do more. But interestingly, I always did that in addition to my existing role. And it only happened towards let's say, when I was in my late 30s, where I started actively pursuing what I wanted to do and actively defining my career goals and how I wanted to lead them. And that's when things changed for me dramatically. And I started driving my career rather than waiting and being asked to do certain things.
Did something happen? Did something change? What do you put that down to?
A variety of factors. First and foremost is having fantastic sponsors, as in managers. That clearly helped me because they are the ones who made me believe in myself. You often question because, unlike, how do I say, my mom never worked. And I don't know many women when I was growing up who had a life of their own, which was different from being at home. So there was always a question of, am I good enough? And if I am good enough, I will be tapped on my shoulder and asked to do a particular job. And if I'm not being asked, maybe I am not good enough and I just need a bit more experience. That changed due to a number of reasons. One, other people believing in me and pulling me out and challenging and pushing me out, which has been amazing. And I've had some amazing sponsors. I'm still in touch with my first hiring manager, which was 25 years ago.
Fantastic.
And these are the people who, I still remember there was a presentation I made about a new project or a new team to be set up. And I gave it to my manager at that point in time. And he wrote back just a few words, one comment, aim bigger, and gave it back to me. And I guess these are little moments that have shaped and defined myself and my life. And they have made me believe in myself a lot more. And it's about confidence, believing in yourself and backing yourself. And with age, things get better. So I think what's happened is, with the experience I have had, with the people I have worked with, things changed to an extent where I told myself that I'm going to be on the driving seat and go and get what I want. I also think that today's the information we get, all the things we hear about how women are different and how we are limiting ourselves, also shapes you, and at least they have pushed me to start thinking differently.
That's fantastic. Can I stay just on that track just a little bit? And people would refer to that as sort of imposter syndrome or otherwise at various points. Some of the other research talks about men are 40% more likely to ask for a raise. And when women do, they ask for 30% less. Have you, either yourself personally or in your experience as a leader, have you seen that, and what can we do to change that?
Wow, that is true. Personally, in my 25 years of my career, I think I asked for a raise once, just once. And even that time, I was so hesitant and so concerned and conscious of how I might be perceived. And it was one of the most difficult conversations I've had in my life. I've always assumed that if I'm good enough, I'll be paid more. And it's often not the case. You don't ask, you don't get.
Yeah.
And having run teams, you're right, exactly on the money there, where when I've had male colleagues, they have always been more forthcoming and always openly discussed pay, openly asked for more money. And the women colleagues have never asked for that. So that's something that has been inherent in the industry and something that I see every day. both myself in terms of who I am, what I do, and what I'm seeing with other people. But having said that, I do believe the last couple of years or last few years, things are changing. I think it's because of awareness, knowledge, and women are getting more open about asking for what they want. Women are ambitious, so things are changing for the better, definitely. And little anecdotes. My daughter, she puts her price for if I ask her to do anything. She always says, "Okay, how much are you going to pay me for that?"
I love that.
So I think things are changing. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's
It's not
fantastic.
it's just not our nature. We're not taught to be like that. We're always taught to be decent, lovely, dutiful, never question, never push back, never ask. So it's a cultural shift, and that takes time.
Sangeeta, there will be people in our audience watching this, and they will be thinking, I could never be like Sangeeta. I could never take the risk she's taken in her career. And we will talk about that. We will talk about the startups and your journey going out there. But I want to ask you how you respond to that. And as I do, I just want to throw in a quote I saw from an interview you did with CEO Magazine, I think last year. And one of the headlines in that was, Sangeeta's never been afraid. So I just thought I would throw that out there and say, what do you say to these women out there looking at you thinking, I could never do what she's done?
Well, that's nice to hear. I don't see it that way. I don't think I can say I have taken risks all my life. On the other hand, the way I define risk is something you get into without really knowing what you're getting into. Risk is getting into with your blinkers on and having no information, no confidence in yourself, and no ability to back yourself. So the way I would like to structure this is, yes, I have taken calculated risks, and that stems from a variety of factors put together. One is having the confidence in myself that I want to do something and I want it badly enough to want to do it. And then being able to back myself in terms of knowing that I have the ability to at least do half of it. The other half you learn in the process. So simplistically put, I have taken calculated risks, but I've taken them knowing that I have a decent chance of success. I haven't gone blind into anything whatsoever.
How important have your networks been in that? I sometimes hear people shy away from networking as an example. Have you had important networks that have kind of supported you through some of that risk taking, or is it, all come from yourself?
Networking is an interesting topic as well. In the past, in my life, I don't think I did well at all. I used to be shy to network, always found it awkward to talk to somebody who's even a little bit senior than me. And it didn't come naturally. And I guess given the kind of banks I work with, mainly investment banks, the focus was more about if you make an effort and do a good job, you'll get paid, you'll get a raise, and you'll get promoted. Things changed for me dramatically when I started looking at more senior management roles, general management roles. And the fact that I've moved geography so many times, getting a job in a new country where you've never worked before without networks just doesn't work. And that's definitely driven me to focus more on networking. So for me, networking initially was a need or a necessity more than a nice to have. And once I started networking, it just became easier and easier as time went by. Example, I live by certain rules that if I get invited to an event, I do everything to attend. If I get invited to a lunch or a board meeting, a boardroom discussion, I will do everything to make sure I attend because you never know who you meet. And given where I am today, since leaving corporate world, my success has 100% been defined by my networks. It has had a significant influence in my life. I still get approached for advisory and board roles, and that can only happen when the word travels and people get to know you.
Mm.
Of course, networking is one. The other thing is you have to make the effort. Why? I mean, for the network to trust and believe in you, you got to be able to lead by example and be able to back yourself through your work and through your knowledge.
So that networking, to me, I think when people are younger or less experienced at networking, it can sometimes come across as transactional. People are there looking to see what they can gain or otherwise, whereas I think the benefit and what I'm hearing from you is actually building deeper connections over time.
100%. Example, if I go to again, I'm talking, let's look at the younger generation. If I go to an event today, I'd be happy if I get to know one person. That's enough. Instead of going and meeting 20 different people and getting 20 business cards, which really is meaningless, I would rather get to know one person really well. And networking, I do believe, works when both people have a connection and it's, like you said, deeper and more meaningful.
So can I ask you about a time that I'm sure people will be fascinated at probably your mindset and how you dealt with it. My understanding is you were at Lehman Brothers when all of the events unfolded with Lehman Brothers. Can you talk us through perhaps that situation and how you felt at the time?
Wow. Okay. I was 8 months pregnant at that time. And going back to those days, we were doing extremely well the beginning of 2008. And we didn't think anything could possibly happen to Lehman. Top 4 investment banks in the world. Cash was not a problem. We had fantastic people, amazing team members, great leaders. So we didn't ever think, or at least I personally never thought something could go wrong.
No.
It started unfolding from my memory after Bear Stearns went down, and June, July, we had some senior leadership exit. And that started, raising questions in my mind on what is going on? What do I need to know? Is it something I don't know? And I was right in the middle of that, living in London in the team, structured credit team or structuring CDOs. It was the epicenter of everything that unfolded. And I remember the last day, Friday, when the Bloomberg screens were showing a share price and things were going tumbling down by the second. I still remember we all left on Friday thinking we'll be fine. Nothing could possibly go wrong with us, only to be informed late Sunday night that nothing is going to go ahead and we're going to be filing for bankruptcy. I still remember the time, Monday morning, I came in to pack my bags and clean my desk, exchange numbers, and contemplating what am I going to do in my life. 8 months pregnant, can't get out, look for a job in the market. The market was already filled with so many amazing talent. It was hard to get a job, let alone being 8 months pregnant. So interesting times. But when I do look back, that has been such an interesting experience to build a level of resilience and also self-confidence. Because I came back to work when my daughter was 3 months old, full time. I went back home to have her, and I got called in to come back to Nomura. And I sat at the same desk in the same building with the same team, a different company.
That must have felt so surreal.
It was one of the most incredible rides because we built a business and we grew it to $1 billion in less than 9 months, which is perhaps the best journey I've had in terms of building a business.
And I know you shared with me that was a time that really built your confidence. So it was quite a seminal point in your journey.
It absolutely was. Again, little anecdotes when I go back. Again, like I said, 8 months pregnant, lost my job, lost everything. And I didn't have any hope of coming back to the market at that time. And I got a call from my boss and my boss's boss asking me to come back. And I was hired with a promotion, with more money. And coming back at that time, with a 3-month-old baby and working full-time and traveling a lot overseas, absolutely built my confidence, being able to build a business. And that's when I realized that if you put your mind to something, you can achieve whatever you want.
Now, you also shared with me, and I want to get to FairVine Super as we kind of navigate this, but you shared with me that you had a dream to start something of your own, but didn't know that you had the skills to do it. When did the dream to do something of your own first kind of start?
A long time ago, I think forever. Forever. I always wanted to be the master of my own destiny. I always wanted to do something of my own, build something of my own. But as my career took off and I went and worked in all these corporates, I don't think I ever thought I had any skills or any skill set to do something.
Yeah.
I always thought that I was there to support, to grow, to enable. I don't know if it is a confidence thing or a knowledge thing, but I never thought I was good enough to start something of my own. And I wouldn't have gotten to where I am today in terms of having the courage to quit corporate career had it not been for the business partners that I have who convinced me and influenced me that we could do it together.
So
I wouldn't have.
No. So let's talk about that because I think that's, there will be so many people in our audience who can absolutely relate to what you've just said. They've worked in a corporate career for their whole lives. They probably enjoy that corporate career. They might be harbouring a dream to do something else, but they're sitting there thinking, I don't even know where to start. I don't have the skills. What sort of things did they say to you? What did you hear that made you think, okay, I can try this?
A couple of things. One, so I ended up starting 2 businesses together. So I quit corporate career, and one of the companies is FairVine, the other one is Applegrove Capital. And in a way, it's a blessing. It ended up being a blessing because I got approached by the business partners for both the companies, co-founders who reached out to me to say, let's do this.
And that's 2 different people?
2 different people. From 2 different walks of life, said, let's do this. Let's do it together. And I thought, wow, I like the idea. And I had the questions in my mind in terms of what can I possibly do? What can I offer? What is my ability to offer? But I think having left a larger corporate career to then run a stockbroking firm gave me enough confidence to know that to navigate about setting up a company and going from there. These 2 people, what I love their vision, and very different visions, love their vision, like their belief in me and the ability to convince me to get out and do it. And I was ready and I was financially okay. So I guess these are the things you got to think about. From logistically speaking, it was the right time for me. I looked at myself and I thought, what is my next challenge? I have done this, I've done that. What's my next challenge? And I couldn't have found a better opportunity where 2 people approached me to say, let's start a business together. So I thought, yes, I'm going to do it. The biggest question was, what do I do? Which one do I choose? And I initially did end up choosing one over the other.
Ah, okay.
And I said, I'm sorry, I'm already committed to him and I can't do this. And the other business partner said, give less time if you need to, but just don't say no.
So which one came first? Which one did you prioritize?
Well, I prioritized Applegrove Capital at that time. I had committed to that early on. And FairVine came in later and I was feeling guilty about it, but I loved the idea. I wanted to do that. So in the end, I ended up doing both and I ended up working more than I had expected. But there was no looking back. And I just had to make sure that I backed myself. Financially, I was secure to be able to focus on 2 businesses. I had the time. I had the support network to be able to focus on both. And both business partners are incredible. And that has clearly helped me to be able to focus on both together at the same time.
And what's the passion that comes behind, possibly different, but is there a sort of a passion or a what's sitting behind those business models? And FairVine Super might be more evident, I suppose, but I'm just interested.
Creating a better world, or influencing to create a better world, because one of them focuses on sustainability. So it's really looking at agriculture, value add, renewable energy. The other one, of course, FairVine, is focused on superannuation, financial literacy for women, financial independence for women. And they both have such strong impacts in terms of our everyday life and the economic upliftment of a particular country and the people, that it was too hard to say no to either. I just loved the whole concept, the idea, and I knew I had to be involved. That's pretty much it.
I would love to ask a little bit about FairVine Super, if we can choose one to focus on. And throughout my conversations, and I've had some fascinating conversations with a whole range of people, a couple of things come up around, why, about why we should still be having a conversation around, gender diversity in particular. And, there's a structural side to the conversations, and then there's a mindset kind of side to the conversations. And you and I have touched on some of the mindset conversations today, but structurally, research shows that women are retiring, I think, with, that 47% less super. I may have that figure wrong, but, 47% less super than males. And there's evidence that points to why that is, in terms of, career breaks and things like that along the way with starting families, a whole range of other sort of reasons. What is FairVine Super? Because as you said, it is focused on females and female literacy. What is FairVine Super doing in that space?
Sure. I'll take a step back, because when the idea was brought to me, I questioned and challenged. I said, why do women need something special? And why are we segregating and trying to do something more for women? And why can't they have what men have? Why are we trying to do this? And it took me a lot of time in terms of research to understand exactly what you're saying, that whilst I always knew that women clearly are missing out in terms of having a nest egg, the question was more in terms of, it's quite apparent, has something not been done already?
Yes.
And interestingly, there's a lot of talk, there's a lot of research, there's a lot of literature out there. However, when it comes to doing something, I didn't see anything that has been done that has made a tangible difference to that. Still a lot of talk, and that's what we try to focus on. We said, we're going to try and make a difference, but we're actually going to make a difference. We're not going to just talk about it. It's not about advocacy, because there's enough advocacy. We're going to go and do something about it. So what we designed was a platform, a superannuation fund, that has certain tools that enables our members to save more money while they are in their career. And it doesn't matter in terms of your age, your socioeconomic status, whether you're married or divorced or single, it doesn't matter. The whole idea was, we're going to help our members save on a daily basis more than what they would save otherwise. Okay. Example. So we have a fintech approach to that. I'll give you a couple of examples. One, we have partnered with over 600 merchants in Australia. And that includes the likes of Myers, Lorna Jane, The Iconic, HelloFresh, Uber. And every time we spend, let's say, $1 through any of these merchants, up to 20% is added by the merchant into your super. And that is additional saving. So if I'm spending $100 on a pair of shoes through The Iconic will add up to 20% of that $100, say $20, into my super as additional. Fantastic. Why not? So we're rewarding our members to live their regular lives. The other thing we have is micro savings called roundups. So you buy a cup of coffee, a glass of champagne, and what happens is, let's say you spend $3.50, it gets rounded off to $4, and the 50 cents goes into your super. It might seem small in terms of micro saving, but if you add that over a period of 25, 30 years, it comes to $150,000 to $200,000, which is a good amount of money. So we have about 6 different tools that really enable our members to save more during their life. The other thing we focused on is really life moments. Example, you having a child and you're taking time off from work. And this is coming more from the ethical part of us to say we should not be charging our members fees because they are not earning money at that time because they're taking a career break. And that has gone a long way in supporting a member base. We launched a new tool last year during COVID called Fair Gig to really support the gig economy workers. We acknowledge that women are more often the supporters or contributors of the gig economy because women are the ones who end up taking part-time work, consulting jobs, which means they often lose super. They don't qualify for super. So our idea was we're going to set up a platform that our members can choose to top up into their super. So they don't suddenly wake up after 20 years and realize they don't have any money in their super. So these are just certain tools. And the idea is to keep it simple, nimble, easy to use. You can change your contributions at any stage and back it up with enough information, enable them to really understand their super and make full use of it.
Congratulations on that, and congratulations in particular on, I think, as you said, doing something about it. Not just talking and understanding that there's a challenge there, actually getting involved and doing something, which I think is incredible. So thank you to your business partner for convincing you to
Thank you. Yeah, thanks to him for sure.
Yeah, to give this a go. Now, I know you're quite active in your daughter's school, and you work with sort of mentoring younger people as well. Does that give you hope for the generation coming through that they're braver than we might be on some levels, or different?
Absolutely. So it all started with when I was approached to support or judge or help a committee that was set up in my daughter's school called Young Entrepreneur Society. It's called YES, Y-E-S. I was fascinated and I went for an evening of discussion and I was completely taken aback by the quality of the presentations and the way young girls are thinking these days to be entrepreneurial, to be able to not even feel that they have to be treated differently. And I saw the energy, the courage, and the quality of the information and the research that's gone into it. And that's what prompted me to say that I would like to get more involved. And I put up my hand to sponsor that society. And I do have an ulterior motive here. I want my daughter to see that she can do anything she wants. And this is one way to really get involved and be able to give back to society. I do think the younger generation is so different from at least how I was. At least when I grew up, I had no idea what I wanted to do, what are the options available to me. I always second guessed my capability. The younger generation today, the girls are incredible. They are so brave. They are so well read, well researched. And interestingly, one of the businesses that was discussed at that meeting, one of them is actually coming to fruition. And these are year 10 or 11 girls who are setting up a company.
Fabulous.
That's incredible.
What a fabulous story. That's absolutely fantastic. Sangeeta, can I ask our final question today that I'm asking of all of the people that I'm having a conversation with? And that is, from your perspective, what does brave feminine leadership look like today, and does it need to change?
Wow. To me, brave is believing in yourself and leading life with conviction, grit, and compassion, backed by authenticity. That's brave for me, and that's how I have applied that to myself. In terms of does brave feminine leadership needs to change, I don't think it technically needs to change because things are changing. We are seeing a lot more women coming out there and trying to do things. Leadership in terms of composition of women has changed dramatically in the last 20 years. And perhaps I'm not even thinking brave feminine here, brave leadership in general, it's the same quality. The one thing that I would like to see change is more women believing in themselves, and more women feeling confident that they are good enough, and perhaps not being shy to be authentic. We often try to portray leadership in a particular style, and we often try to fit in that mold. And our leadership style is clearly different from what has been the case historically. And we shouldn't be shy to embrace that and choose our style that suits us and that brings out the best in us.
Fantastic. I have really enjoyed our conversation, and no doubt myself and the audience will have so many more questions. I know we want to make it easy for people to be able to find out a little bit more about FairVine Super as well. So we'll make sure that there's some details included here so that people can actually access that. But Sangeeta, I just want to thank you so much for joining this conversation that we're still having, and we need to keep still having. But it's been an absolute pleasure to have you join today.
Thank you so much, Melissa. It was a pleasure.